The two things that I primarily do when I'm playing is I will either loop something, so send an audio signal into the looper and have that audio signal play over and over again, or sequence something where I program something into a machine and then the machine plays that sequence over and over again. And there are times where I want my audio signal to go into the looper and then into the recording device, and then there are other times where I want the sequence to go directly into the recording device so that's not going into the looper. And the way that I essentially do that is by using a button on the Mackie mixers called the Alt Out button. You can see it says Alt 3-4. There's a main out here, but there's also a Alt Out, which you see. And so when you press the button, that signal will go from channel 1 to the alt out. And so what I do is I have the alt output going into the looper, and then the looper going into the recording device, and then I have the main outs going directly into the recording device. But if you want to get even more tracks going through your mixer and have them be on separate tracks for the zoom, you can also use things called inserts. And so what will happen is you put a signal into line 1, and then you put a cable coming out of this, and that will be a separate channel that you can then plug into your recording device. This works really well if I want to have my sampler be in this like dedicated signal chain, so that it's coming out of the mixer and directly into its own channel. But if I want to, I can just unplug the cables from the insert, and when I unplug the cables from the inserts, they get treated just like any other channels, where I can switch between the mute button, which will function as an alt out or function as a main channel switcher. All right, so that's the drum machine going into the looper, and you can actually hear it here without the ring modulation. And then with it. I really like the sound of this thing. And now I'm going to switch it out so that we can just have the drum root sequencing. So now you will hear it without the ring modulation. All right, that's good. So I'm going to plug those inserts back in. So now the inserts are plugged back in, and I can sequence on this without it going into the looper. So let's see what we got. Alright. I really enjoy this sound so far. And what I want to do now is send this sequence into the looper. So let's do that. Alright, now I'm free to use the Minilogue and the Minilogue XD to do a solo maybe. So there you have it. That's how I use the Mackie mixer in my workflow to easily switch between sequencing and looping, and to also use the insert to send my sampler to a separate track on the Zoom. I really hope it helps with your creative setup, and until next time, you've been blessed.